everybody. I think we'll get started. Probably be some stragglers coming in. Welcome to our case study show and tell session. We really don't have a title. Each of us have our own individual titles. We're going in the order of the program in case people are jumping around. So I'm Jim Olson, Director of Integrated Media at the Peabody Essex Museum. And today I'll be presenting about our AAM Muse Award-winning immersive museum experience that we created for a recent exhibition called Impressionists on the Water. So first, a little bit about the Peabody Essex Museum. We're located in Salem, Massachusetts, about 20 minutes north of Boston. How many people have actually been to the Peabody Essex Museum? I always like to ask. Well, that's a good number, considering. The museum was founded in 1799, making us the longest continuing operating museum in the United States, which is really kind of interesting. We have a deep and far-ranging collection, specializing particularly in Asian export art, Native American, Oceanic, American Maritime, Indian, just to name a few. So in 1799, the East India Marine Society was a bunch of sailors and captains who got together and brought a bunch of stuff back from China, India, wherever they were traveling, and that's how the collection began. We do take a wide range of traveling exhibitions, from blockbuster shows to fashion. We have 22 historic properties on campus, including the Ward House from 1684 and a 200-year-old Qing Dynasty house that was taken apart piece by piece in China and then reassembled in the middle of our museum. It's a pretty remarkable experience. We also have an important research library with approximately 400,000 historic documents. So it's a fun place to work. We have lots of materials to work with. That's the entrance to the museum, and you can see some signage for Impressionists on the Water. So let's dive right in. I'll be using all sorts of silly water jokes during the presentation, as you might imagine I would. The show is organized by the Fine Arts Museum of San Francisco, and as we often do at PEM, we kind of customize exhibitions to our core audiences and the kinds of things that we are trying to create in terms of experiences at the museum, and I think you'll see this boat as a good example of that. The show itself was absolutely stunning. It had 60 oil paintings, works on paper, small boats, literal boats, and models. So it's Impressionist, folks. It was pretty popular. You can imagine we had huge crowds, as Impressionism was one to do for you. Especially since Salem's a coastal city with a long maritime history, so there are a lot of people who are either recreational sailors or just interested in maritime history. So you can see both paintings and boats were installed together in the show, which was really cool. And some of them were installed in really cool and unique ways. So here you can see a boat called the Gig Nana. This took like a day and a half, 2 days to actually install. It was owned by Emile Zola, and Gustave Caillebotte actually helped him pick this out, and it shows up in a painting or two. And you can see how we play with lighting a little bit and try to make it feel like it's on the water. So really playing with the lighting effects with some gobos and such. So I distinctly remember the day this exhibition team was sitting in my office, and we were brainstorming, our interpretive plan for the exhibition. And we talked about incorporating some video of French waterways and maybe some ambient sound and just kind of playing with that a little bit. And then I uttered the phrase that precedes so many great ideas, at least for us at PEM, this might sound crazy, but what if we built our own Impressionist boat in the middle of the installation and really try to replicate what it felt like to be on the water, to paint from an Impressionist boat? And the curator was like, yeah, cool, let's try that. And I must confess, while I was part of the ideation of this project right from the beginning, I was lucky enough to hire the lovely and talented Ed Rodley, and he managed the project when he came on to us at PEM, and he worked with Michelle Moon in the Education Interpretation Department, and I think you'll agree they really rocked this thing. It was actually part of the bait that I put on the hook and said, Ed, would you like to come work at PEM? This is a project you could work on, and he jumped right at it, so it was great to have him on board. Get it? We used a few works from the show as actual inspiration. So here you see a studio boat painted by Claude Monet. And this boat really was and you'll see from the images I showed of the boat, one of the real inspirations for it. We also had this amazing Daubigny print, which provided incredible detail, though hard to see, of what it might look like inside one of these vessels. So take a close look at this, because I'll be referring back to this image in a little bit. See some stuff going on here. He's painting, the artist is looking out onto a river scene. So Ed made some extremely skillful preliminary drawings, probably better than I can do, so I shouldn't criticize. And then the team started to flesh out those drawings to get a better sense of what this thing was going to look like. So yes, that's 28 feet is what we were looking at for the size of said vessel. So this is an exhibition plan. It gives you a sense of scale. The Gig Nana that I showed you before is right here. Our Impressionist boat shows up halfway through the show. So we took up some pretty serious real estate, and this is one of the things I like most about working at PEM. We have the freedom, one, to propose projects like this, but two, we're at the table right from the beginning of the exhibition planning, so we both get the real estate we need and the buy-in that we need to do something like this. And we really do get to fully integrate our experiences into the exhibitions. So here's Daubigny again. What we did is we just dropped in a little color image of a river scene to get a sense of how we might set up our projection in the system that we're going to use for the infrastructure. So Paula Richter, one of our amazing research curators, pretty much took a magnifying glass to this thing and dissected the print and identified all of the following things. And then she sourced a bunch of them on eBay and bought a bunch of stuff. So great use of eBay here. So if you can't read it from where you are, built-in racks for utensils, artist canvases, paint box, braided rope of onions, fish, we used a fake fish, you might imagine, frying pans, absinthe bottles, wine bottles, commode, all kinds of cool stuff. We were also lucky enough, at the time that we were working on this exhibition, to have one of our Native American fellows on staff who she was interested in exhibition design, so she mocked up a virtual version of the boat. And I know not everyone has the opportunity to do this for a project, but it was hugely helpful in getting institutional buy-in, trying to show our executive leadership team and the curators really what this thing was going to look like and what people were going to be able to experience. And like I said before, Dan Fittimore, the host curator of the show at our institution, was totally on board right from the beginning. So let's just take a quick look at this. As you might imagine, when you're proposing a project like this, people would question a little bit and say, well, wait a second, we're an art museum, and this is a painting show, and what is this thing that you're trying to put in the middle of it? But we sold it. So to be able to show this much detail to the staff, and it ends up looking pretty close to this, really, really helped us along. So we needed video footage, and we basically asked Chip Van Dyke, our videographer on staff, to put a GoPro on his head and head out to local river scenes with a kayak and a rowboat. One of my favorite stories is he had an intern with him, and the rowboat was shaking too much, and the guy's fully clothed in like jeans and pants, and he's like, Casey, I hate to ask you this, but could you like stand in the water and hold the boat steady for a few minutes? And like 20 minutes later in like, 60-degree water, he's holding. So we pay our interns nothing. So I felt really awful about that. So Chip really wanted to go to southern France, but it just wasn't in the budget. So we actually added the local river scenes, which was kind of nice because visitors had a sense of the places. They had this vague kind of remembrance of, oh yeah, I know the Ipswich River, or that looks like Saugus, and they kind of connected to some of the local surroundings, which is really cool. So then we did the next thing you would do for any painting exhibition. We hired an Impressionist painter and we stuffed her in a room for a week with with a large projection of the video footage that we got, and we asked her to paint in an Impressionist manner. So you can see Chip's videos, and she's starting to prepare a canvas. And man, did she paint. She painted all the scenes brilliantly. It really worked out incredibly well. So while she was painting, we had set up a stop-motion kind of system so that we could ask her to keep taking pictures of herself, and she was game, which is, you can imagine, pretty frustrating for a painter. Paint a little, take a picture, paint a little, take a picture, because we just didn't want to have it set up to be rapid fire. We want to give her a little artistic license as to when she wanted the camera to stop, which helped us in editing as well, because we had less images rather than way too many. And you can see here she is taking a photograph, and sometimes her head got in the way, so we had to weed those out. And here's a sense of what we ended up with in terms of syncing the video footage to the time-lapse footage. I'll let this play a little bit, and then I'll skip around so you can see some of the other paintings. People found this mesmerizing. They really sat and enjoyed it. Jump around a little further. You kind of get the picture. Here's one more. So really trying to capture this idea of what the Impressionists were doing, if you remember from your art history classes, looking at light, translating it directly from the eye, from eye to canvas, and just the shimmer and catching all those little details in each of the paintings. So now back to the physical construction of the boat. We put a screen on the back, which you can see in this far side of that slide, with an ultra-short throw projector. And the idea was really to make it look like you were looking off the back of one of these Impressionist studio boats, just like the real thing. So that's where it looks as we start to flesh it out, starting to put in the pots and pans and the fake fish and such. We used a Pico projector to project onto the canvas, and then we actually added the sound of like gently lapping water. It sounded like it was coming up against the side of the boat. It's very subtle. People didn't pick it up at first, but eventually, after spending some time on the boat, they got it. And we even included scent, which was one of my favorite parts of this. This little piece of canvas right here, which is pretty close to what the boats look like. Ed had this great idea, I think it was Ed and the curator, of putting in a resin rope, something of this maritime-y kind of smell. It smelled like pine in the ocean. And people got it, because just as you walked under that, you could catch this kind of scent, and you felt like you were on a boat. So playing with as many senses as we could here. So that's the final product. Visitors of all ages loved it. You can imagine kids really enjoyed it. Our docents gave lots of little stops there for a tour, because it was a place to sit as well, right in the middle of the exhibition. So that worked extremely well for us, at the same time. And you can see it really did feel like a boat. You can see how it's shaped like a boat. I won't say bow stern because I get it wrong. I'm not a sailing guy, so I get that all wrong every time. People really got into it. I like to call experiences like this laying down our didactic hammer. This idea that you don't have to have text, you don't have to have audio that you have to be listening to, but you can be experiencing something that puts you into a contextual kind of framework, but at the same time, understanding what the Impressionists were doing just by looking. And after looking at this, my hope is that folks went on and looked at the paintings a little bit closer, a little bit more deeply. People said things like, "Oh, I see how the light is shimmering," and the artists captured it with a simple brushstroke. So that's how we knew we were close to success. Anecdotally, on average, people spend about 2 to 3 minutes on the boat. I like to call these, the little speed bumps in the exhibition, things to slow people down, get them to relax after, heavy looking. They can just kind of have a little bit of fun, which is why most people go to museums, at least why I go to museums, is to have fun. In a survey of about 40 people or so, we had 15 people who spent under 2 minutes on the boat, but that median was about 1.5 minutes long. 10 people spent 2 to 5 minutes, 11 people spent 5 to 10 minutes, 2 people spent 10 to 15 minutes, and 1 person spent over 15 minutes. In fact, after 16 minutes, the evaluator left because the person was still sitting on the boat. So I don't know if they were waiting for it to move or what they were doing. They were really, really enjoying it. I actually took my wife and my daughter, my 4-year-old daughter, and we went, and we were sitting on the boat, and I looked to the side, and there's this older woman and a kid sitting on the boat, and she looked at me and she's like, "Isn't this just wonderful?" I didn't have a badge on or anything, so I was like, "Yeah, it's really nice." And my wife's just cackling in the background, noticing how is he going to handle this awkward conversation. And she said, well, you know, I was here with my husband last week, and I just love this thing, so I had to bring my grandson back, and we've been sitting here for 15 minutes just enjoying this thing. So anecdotally, that was really awesome. And a staff member who's actually at this conference, whose name I won't mention, you probably figure that out, was on the boat for about 10 seconds, and she grabbed my arm, and she said, Jim, I get really seasick. I need to get off the boat, because it feels like it's moving. So I was like, yes. If someone had hurled, that would have been 100% success. We have a little pot down there just in case. You know, it didn't happen. So I was a little disappointed in some ways at that. But and here are some of the comments that we did receive. The studio boat was one of the most, perhaps the most creative exhibit I have ever seen. That was my mother. No, actually, she didn't see the show. And a few other, you know, great quotes that people really were enjoying it, and they left us some nice comments. Pretty cool when your interactive is called the pièce de résistance in a painting show of Impressionist painting, so I thought that was kind of nice. We also had some quotes that are a little too long to put up for a slide, so one of them clearly from a teacher says, very, very informative. I'm an art teacher, and it would be great to have a group of students do it and understand what I'm talking about when I talk about underpainting. To see the layers of color. It's very historical, capturing a moment in time. Great, great idea. It shows how the painters were breaking new ground and getting outdoors. Or someone else who said, it's like being there. The perspective gives it a changing light landscape. He saw it through his eyes. I didn't realize he spent that much time doing that. I read that there was a period of 6 or 7 years where he lived on boats like this and painted on this boat. But I noticed the artist's commentary that there was wine. I wonder what happened after dark, which was a little weird for a comment, but... So I guess the moral of the story for this, for us particularly, is don't be afraid to come up with crazy ideas and throw them on the table. And don't be afraid to push your interpretive and curatorial teams and your leadership a little bit, even if you think they might not be interested in your ideas, and try to find ways to prove to them, show to them during certain stages of the project that this is something that will be valuable. If it does fail, just grab the life preserver and swim like hell. Get out of town. But thank you all. I'll take a few questions while we make the transition, but we'll be available for questions afterward. So maybe one or two while we unplug, and Victoria can come on up. Yeah.
I might have missed a bit about evaluation, but you had to observe people in the space. Like, how rigorous was that? Was it just, you know, a couple times you dropped in, or did you have a long-term evaluation strategy?
I think there were maybe, it wasn't a long-term evaluation strategy. I think there were maybe 3 times that people jumped in and out. It was an in-house evaluation done by both Ed Rodley and Michelle Boone, our educator. It was pretty informal, but they did have a set instrument that was proper in many ways. Basically, all they did was they waited in the gallery out the next gallery and said, "Did you go in the Impressionist boat that you saw in the last exhibition? If so, what can you tell me about it, and did you like it?" They answered those simple questions, and we had some basic comments from that. Some of the comments that I gleaned there actually came from that evaluation. It wasn't as formal as we always would like.
So my question is, when visitors said this was the pièce de résistance of the exhibition, I mean, did that threaten your curators? I mean, my curators, I have a hard time convincing them, it doesn't matter if they like this thing best. They came to the whole show, they saw your works of art, give your works of art more credit, but it's just interesting.
Our mission statement is transforming lives of people through experiences in art. Something like that.
Okay.
Giving someone an experience like this that they remember, that they comment in that way, we've transformed them in some way, success. They're thinking about Impressionist painting in a new way, so everyone was on board with that. That was not a problem. I'm really lucky to work with curatorial staff that gives us that kind of flexibility. I think we'll maybe save any other questions for the end. I won't let Victoria go, but we'll be here. We'll have probably 15 minutes at the end, so thank you all.
Great. So my name is Victoria Jones, and I am a senior producer at Bluecadet. If you're not familiar with us, we're an interactive agency in Philadelphia. We make everything from digital installations and touchscreens to websites and apps for museums and other nonprofits. So I'll be talking to you today about a project that we did with the University of Pennsylvania Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology in Philadelphia. This is a really great institution. It's been around coming up on 200 years now. They have an amazing collection with millions of objects in it. from their expeditions and researches that they've done across the globe. And so they came to us in 2012 about their upcoming show, Native American Voices, The People Here and Now. And this is a reinstallation of their Native American gallery, a semi-permanent show that was going in. And the main focus of this reinstallation project was that they wanted to present contemporary Native American people alongside their amazing collection of artifacts. For some reason, people have this kind of subconscious idea that Native Americans are kind of gone, that they're not around anymore. And so a major part of this was emphasizing that we are still here. Native Americans are still here, bringing Native Americans into the show as a contemporary living people. And so it was really important to include photos of Native Americans, make it very contemporary and vibrant. And so Kate Quinn, who we worked with at the Penn Museum, she is the director of exhibitions and public programs, created this really great style guide for the exhibition, which we played off of with the media pieces. And so for each of the kinds of experiences we do, I'll take you through a little bit of our process that we did. So this was an initial ideation, just a really fast sketch we did for an introduction projection that would be in the center of the space and kind of ground your experience. So it was conceptualized as kind of like a fire pit that you're gathering around and hearing a story. So here are some initial storyboards showing how that could look a little bit, and here we're kind of testing it out on our office floor. And so this is an animatic where it's not quite a full animation. It's just sort of halfway between an animation and a storyboard like I just showed you before. So what's going on here is while you're looking at the centerpiece, and there's captioning on the outside of an audio track that's playing of a narrative telling you about the story of Native Americans with different voices speaking it. So it's transforming from like an old man's voice to a young child's voice, and there's Native American language kind of woven in there as well. So this is how it turned out. You can see there's benches around it for people to gather and read. And here's a little video that gives you a little bit of a sense of what it's like. So it starts off kind of historically, and then starts off with a lot of like landscape imagery, natural imagery, and proceeds through until there's a climax at the end with the message, "We are still here." So here's that final moment where it says, "We are still here," and then it returns to the fireplace. And so this is actually, there's a sensor that triggers this, so it's the fire loops until visitors approach it, and then it begins the main sequence. So another set of pieces that we did were these media towers, which were sort of media towers combined with almost a story booth. So they're very tall, about 15 feet tall. There's 4 of them in the show. And they're a large grid full of about 100 different things that you can choose from. So some of these are videos of Native American leaders speaking about contemporary issues, or they are audio tracks, or just other information. There's many different kinds of things that are available. And so here we're testing out an early design in the office, feeling out the scale, seeing what the size is like, and this is how it actually wound up in the space. So these are also sensor activated. So before you walk up to them, they have this very cinematic sort of attract experience, very large and experiential, and then as you walk up to it, it detects you and kind of ripples away into these grids of items from which you can choose. And you can pull these grids up or down to select anything that's along the whole grid. As you can see, she's scrolling it in order to be able to select something else. The grids were also filterable, so you could filter by any of the themes from the exhibition if you were interested in a particular thing. And it would kind of shadow out the things that weren't relevant, so you could go through and learn about a specific thing. So one point of value with this is that we were really able to get a lot of impact for a smaller budget. Because the towers are very tall, you can only really reach the first screen. And so we made that be a touchscreen and then kept the other screens as just regular screens. And so for about 6,000 for each tower, we were able to get a lot of impact from these towers without a lot of hardware costs. And so the final kind of piece that we made for them was a set of 12 object touchscreens, which ranged around the perimeter of the gallery in front of the cases. And so each of these touchscreens, the surface mirrored what you were looking at in the case. So here's an early wireframe of that, where you can see what you're looking at on the screen is kind of what you're seeing in front of you. Anything that you want to learn about, you can just touch it to learn more. You can also filter again by the themes of the exhibition to bring something up if you're interested in any of those themes. So here's a little design from farther along in the process. You were able to learn more about some of the images that were inside the cases and some of the text panels that were inside the cases as well. So while each screen is dedicated at first to what's directly in front of you, you also had the option to explore all of the objects in the exhibition, of which there were about 380. And so you could filter these, you could see all the toys together, you could see all the baskets together, and you could really draw connections from across the exhibit and not just what was in the case in front of you. So for each of these objects, we had a lot of information available. So there were multiple views of each object. You could zoom in onto them very closely. There was tombstone information about each object, as well as some of them had stories which went with them. And so there's the author of the story. Some of them had archival photographs, information about the tribes associated with that object, and sometimes a map would be relevant. And so there was really a ton of information in these that visitors could explore and interact with. So again, these are just around, and so you can see the one on the end has the shirt in the case and the shirt on the screen in front of it, whereas this one has this large circular basket on it, and so they match up all the way around. So that's the end.
So hi, my name is Caroline Herr, and I work in the Integrated Media Department at the Peabody Essex Museum, Jim. I work as a web designer, design interactives, and I work on the website. Today, I'm presenting our Turner's Apothecary Moodimeter, which is a responsibly designed web app that we had created for an exhibition we had this past summer of the British painter J.M.W. Turner's works. The exhibition was called Turner and the Sea. And if you want, you can check it out on your phone, your laptop, any mobile device at pem.org/Turner. Wait for it. In the exhibition, Turner and the Sea, there were presented over 110 works by Turner and other artists. These were big, magnificent paintings. The paintings filled 5 galleries and included really beautiful seascapes and marine views. In one gallery, called Imagining the Sea. These were where we featured the watercolors and drawings and prints. And it was these works that we really wanted to feature in the interactive. Here you can see on the left side, you can see we had 2 iPads next to a bench, and we had the same thing at the other end of the gallery, so we had 4 iPads total, and a place you could sit. Many of these paintings were unfinished works, experimental sketches that he used as studies for larger paintings. We felt that they give a great sense of mood and emotion, of fear and exhilaration, of happiness and awe. They're atmospheric, they're moody. They deal with light and air and weather and water. And they all capture like a certain moment in time. So we chose 37 of these works for the interactive. So you're probably wondering, why on earth a moodimeter? How does this app help people to gain a better understanding of Turner as a painter of mood and emotion, as well as seascapes? We really wanted people to look closely at these paintings and think about how the paintings made them feel. So where did such a crazy idea for an interactive come from? Well, BuzzFeed quiz. So a 19th century BuzzFeed quiz, obviously. We decided to create the interactive in a quiz form that would diagnose people's moods and then prescribe them a Turner painting to suit that mood. So it started with those BuzzFeed quizzes, and we went from there. there would be 5 brief questions. We wanted to keep it short. 5 brief questions that a user would answer and receive their prescription. So the paintings had to be tagged with a specific mood word for the database. So our next step was to decide what mood word for each emotion. So we had a fun staff workshop to assign the mood words. We had pizza, people came at lunchtime, it was really fun. And who wouldn't want to look at paintings during lunch, right? So Michelle Moon and our education department came up with 37 questions that ranged from anything from, if you were in the boat on this topsy-turvy storm, how would it make you feel? Or if you were watching from land, what would you feel? And it went on and on. We analyzed the results and assigned a mood word to each painting. We wanted the moodimeter to have a 19th century apothecary aesthetic, as if you'd stepped into an old apothecary from Turner's time. So the 6 mood words we chose were based on the 4 temperaments, which were sanguine, choleric, phlegmatic, melancholic. We added sublime and joyful because so many of his works are, well, just joyful. So this was last year. It was late March. The show opened on May 31st. So we basically have 2 months. I was lucky enough to be given the opportunity to design the interactive. That was really my first big interactive. So I basically had 2 weeks to come up with a design plan, and then we would have 5 weeks for the developers to actually build it, and then we'd have like 1 week to test it, and then boom, we're open. So these were the beautiful storyboards that I was given as a starting point, as the first idea for the moodimeter. You know, we could have easily just done a typical question, click your checkbox, move to the next question, you know, kind of like a BuzzFeed quiz. But we really wanted to create something new, something unusual, something that would have an element of surprise and delight and be really fun to use. So I researched, I wanted the user to feel as if they'd step back in time, and we're using a cool antique device, a physical object that might have existed in 19th century British apothecary, especially Turner's apothecary. So I drew inspiration from, you know, like barometers, binnacles, clocks, 19th century typography, steampunk, old apothecary shops, Turner's actual pigments, and even British cheeses of the period. These all influenced the design process for the moodimeter. So this is basically what it looks like on the different devices. It was important to us that the moodimeter be accessible on all devices, not just an app that could only be downloaded at the iPhone or iPad from the iPhone store. We wanted it to be built responsively as a web app that could be used on any mobile device anywhere in the world, not just in the gallery. We wanted to take advantage of some of the fun touch gestures, such as spinning a dial or turning a knob to move another element on the page, to physically shake the device to activate a potion mixing process to create your prescription. Before we met with the developers, we wanted to make sure all of these things were doable in HTML5, and we found some new JavaScript libraries that make all this possible, which help the developers to work really quickly on a tight deadline. The developers we work with are from the outfit. They're really great to work with. They totally embraced our unusual approach, and they used the Code Igniter framework and expression engine to build the responsibly designed app. They're really fun to work with. I can't recommend them highly enough. Let's take a quick walk through the moodimeter, hopefully. Okay, so what you're looking at is basically the start screen, the attract screen that we had in the galleries. And the smoke effect was done using CSS3 3D transforms, a little bit of JavaScript, and it was just also used as a screensaver for the iPads to prevent burn-in. So basically, it attracted people over to look at that. Once you entered, it was important to us that the app responded back to you. So kind of bringing you in even further. So with every question, we'd have like a response. There's only 5 questions. This was the first one. You can see the antique box device, and the user can use their finger to swipe, spin the dial, choose your destination. There's 5 destinations, and these are all places where Turner painted. So this was, which journey would you take? I think I chose Venice, pretty sure. Yes. And then you'd click choose, and it would move you to the next question. Again, it would respond back to you in a fun, whimsical way. Then the second question was about colors. These were all pigments that Turner painted with in his paintings. So you could turn, with your finger, turn the knob, checked through the different colors, and each color had a little bit of information about it. People got a kick out of this. So I think I chose orpiment, which is made from arsenic, poison, in case you can't read it. So again, you know, it responds back to you in a nice little way. The third question, which book would you choose for a little light reading to suit your mood? Again, the user can swipe across the books, sort of like you're looking at books on a bookcase, you know, in that fashion. And if you notice at the bottom, there's little apothecary bottles. Those are to tell the user like where you are going in the process. You know, you're on the third question. There's only 2 left. You know, there was also a back button in case you wanted to go back at the top. So again, a nice response from Turner, just to sort of, you know, bring you in a little further. The fourth question was probably the funnest question. People were laughing about this one a big time. So we had these cheeses, you know, moody cheeses, a crumbly cheddar, you know, a rich double Gloucester. A lot of people like that one. Runny camembert. And my personal favorite was a bland Wensleydale. Although for this, I went back to the double Gloucester for you people. So that was really fun. People really like that. And then we come to the last question, eventually, which was, you know, kind of getting after what activity would you like to be doing right now? You know, what's your idea of a smashing good time? So, you know, hanging on a rope, hanging on a swing, going to the city, dancing, sailing, maybe, you know, sitting at home reading a book by the fire. I think I chose dancing for this, but you could go back and forth. It was easy. So now you're done. The apothecary bottles are all filled in and delightful. We would have got on famously. I'm happy about that. So at the last, in the galleries, we had the iPads on tethers, and you could shake them. They never saw or tap to mix your elixir. They only had the choice of shaking. So everybody knew instantly what to do. They shook it, and then you're prescribed a Turner painting, and in a little badge you get, you know, you're feeling sanguine. You could also, there was a link to the exhibition. You could also share it on Facebook or Twitter. You could also see information about the painting, the label information. And at the bottom, you'll notice it's signed by the proprietor, J.M.W. Turner. So that was basically that. Or you could also try it again. We promoted the mood meter on social media with, you know, Facebook posts, tweets, on Instagram. We did a little of the smoke mixing process. We did some blog posts. We also designed these very cool badges, which they're on the back table for you. So if you try the mood meter out, just go pick up your badge, or you can come to me. I've got more. These are collector's items. So, you know, just check it out. Let me know. We also, Chip Van Dyke did a video for us to promote the Turner ad. So our amazing developers from the outfit built it in Expression Engine. Like I said, they created some custom reports for us in Expression Engine to kind of be able to see what was happening as it went along, and still today we track it. This first screen shows how many times each painting was prescribed, although you can't really tell. It's really small, but at the very top, blue distant is that beautiful blue painting. That's by far been the most popular, and since day one, it's been up at the top. They also made some other reports that show, which moods were being prescribed by the selections people were making. So that's the top chart, and the bottom chart shows how much time people were using on each question. So like if we thought people were having trouble using it, we would have known right away. We would have seen that they never got past the first question. But they didn't.
What's the time? How long?
Oh, sorry. This one's 24.2
Seconds.
seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. 24. This one's like 14 and a half, and 16 seconds. So probably for us, the best part of the report was the total visitors, total usage report, which I have to admit I probably checked a million times every day. But it showed that we have at this point over 24,575 total visitors, and with an 83% completion rate, which to us is huge, and we're really happy about that. And even since the exhibition ended in September 1st, we've still had the same completion rate, staying really high. People are still using it online, so that's a good thing. So how did people respond in the galleries? What did we see during observations? The response has been great. People love the element of fun and surprise in the exhibition. We saw, I myself saw a lot of friends tending to take the quiz multiple times, like giggling, sharing, comparing their results. Oftentimes, this was a big show. It was our second biggest show, attendance-wise, ever. So it would get really crowded in there. You'd have to wait to get, to use the moodometer, but people did. Kids, of course, love all things iPad, and we knew they would find it easy to use. But they also like sharing it with their parents. And I did notice often, I noticed children afterwards like dragging their parents over to the painting to go look at it, So people would call their friends and family over to Interactive and encourage them to try it out, saying things like, I was diagnosed as joyful, try it and see what you get, or I went to Venice, where do you want to go, or I hate Stilton, but I love cheddar. So people really had fun with it. Older people, younger people, everybody was fine with it. No one had any issues using the iPads. It was easy for all of them. We're really lucky that we got a lot of great comments in our comment books from people, which I didn't expect myself, but it was great, I think my favorite one was the iPad mood thing. The very top one. The iPad mood thing was awesome. I also like the paintings. Nice. We also got tweets and great feedback on social media with some nice tweets and Facebook posts from people. So that was really great. So that's really it. Thank you for listening. And again, you can try it out at pem.org/Turner. And those buttons are going to go. So